And we are on chapter 9 of Sketches. "Dana, you're just in time," Nikki exclaimed as I walked through the front door. "In time for what?" I asked anxiously. "In time to go." "Go? But I just got here. Are you closed for the day?" "Open for business, but we're just leaving, and you can come with us." "Come with you where?" I asked. "That would be telling. Come on, trust me," she said with a smile. "We'll be doing some genuine, true, 100% street art." "What sort of street art?" Nikki laughed. "Did you come here to play 20 questions or do some art?" "Art." "Then shut up and come with us." I joined in with a little group. Nikki, Robert, another counselor, and 5 kids. 3 of them I knew, and the other 2 I'd seen around before but had never talked to. 2 of the guys were carrying large canvas bags. "That's a nice top," one of the girls said to me. "Yeah, really nice," one of the boys agreed. "Thanks," I mumbled. "Is it new?" Nikki asked. "Yeah, I picked it up this morning." That was true. I had picked it up out of one of those bags that were in the drop box with us. We'd been looking for something to replace Brett's blood-stained and ruined shirt, but we'd also found a couple of things that Ashley and I liked. I felt a little bad taking something meant for the Salvation Army, but Brent just laughed and said that they'd be giving them to poor people anyway, and there was hardly anybody who was poorer than us. Brent had insisted that we put everything we didn't take neatly back into the bags. He made sure that we didn't damage anything or make a mess, because he said we should respect the Salvation Army people. He kept talking about how they were doing God's work. He even quoted from the Bible a few times. It was strange. I'd never heard him talk like that before. He sounded like he was some sort of minister or something. It was obvious that he'd spent more than one Sunday in a church somewhere. I wanted to ask, but I figured that was against the rules. People talked if they wanted to talk. Brent had looked terrible that morning. His face was bloody and swollen, and he was complaining about a bad headache. Ashley wasn't much better. She had lifted up her top to show me the bruises over her ribs, and she winced in pain whenever she tried to take a deep breath. I had wanted to stay with them, but they had told me they were just going to lie low all day, and this was a good day for me to goof off at the drop-in center. Besides, I thought maybe I could pick up some food to bring back, even if it was just day-old muffins and milk. Before I left, I went and got them coffee and donuts. Those thugs hadn't taken all of our money. Brent kept most of the money in his sock, thank goodness. I was going to meet them back at the parking lot around 5. I guess that meant we were going to spend another night in the box. Funny, compared to some of the places we'd stayed, the clothing drop box was almost luxurious, like our own private little apartment. I'd felt safe and warm in there. "How about right here?" Nikki asked as we abruptly came to a stop. Robert looked around. He was studying something, but I couldn't figure out what. "Looks good to me," he agreed. We were standing in a little park at a busy intersection. Traffic zoomed by on both sides, and people, moving almost as fast, bounced along on the sidewalk. I sat down on one of the 2 benches. "You haven't even started to work and you're already taking a break?" Nikki said. I quickly got to my feet, although my legs felt heavy and tired. Actually, all of me felt heavy and tired. I had hardly slept at all. I'd been worried about Brent and had tried to stay awake to listen for his breathing. Then when I finally did drift off, I was haunted by bad dreams. I could see that guy, that look in his eyes, that evil smile. I could hear his laugh, smell his foul breath. I shuddered. Then morning finally arrived, and the sun heated up that little metal box so much that it felt like an oven. "Take this," Nikki said as she handed me a little whisk broom. "What do you want me to do with this?" "Dana, my dear, it's a broom. What do you think I want you to do with it?" "I just don't know what you want me to sweep. Why you want me to sweep." "You have to sweep to properly prepare our canvas," she explained. "Our canvas? I don't see any canvas. Is it in one of those bags?" Nikki laughed. "No, you're standing on it." I looked down anxiously. There was nothing beneath my feet except concrete. "The sidewalk is our canvas," Nikki said. "We're going to paint the sidewalk?" I was having trouble with the concept. Not paint, chalk. I went from confused to even more confused. "You sweep and I'll explain," Nikki said. "This whole big block of concrete where you're standing on is going to be our canvas, and chalk is going to be our medium," Nikki explained. "You ever use chalk to draw on the sidewalk?" "When I was a kid." As opposed to the old woman that you are now? Robert piped up. You know what I mean. When I was a little kid, I'd use it for hopscotch or writing my name on the driveway. Same idea, but a little more complicated. Show her the book. The other counselor, I didn't know her name, rummaged around in one of the canvas bags and produced a big, thick, glossy-looking book. She handed the book to Nikki, who showed it to me. It's an art book, I said. It's an art book filled with the most famous paintings in history, and we're going to reproduce one of those pictures right here on the pavement. We are? How? Nikki's brow furrowed. I thought you could show us how to do it since you've had all that experience using chalk to play hopscotch. Me? I exclaimed. I don't know how to. I let the sentence trail off as Nikki and Robert and the other counselor broke into broad smiles. Don't worry, it's not hard, Nikki said. And we'll walk you guys through it, real slow, step by step. By the end of the day, you'll be able to do it yourself if you want, Robert said. That's right. You get back to sweeping and we'll get everything set up. It was amazing to watch. Right after I finished sweeping, Nikki went over the entire square to make sure there wasn't a grain of sand or speck of dust. She used a large ruler and measuring tape to make a frame on the pavement. The frame was bigger, a lot bigger, than the picture in the book, but in perfect proportion. Then, important spots on the painting were measured from the side and marked on the pavement the same distance from the frame that had already been created. From there, a light outline of faint white chalk was used to start sketching the features of the painting. The other counselor, I found out her name was Becca, did most of the outlining. Sometimes it looked good the first time. Other times it was wrong, and she rubbed it off and retraced it. After watching the process a couple of times, Becca asked me to give it a try. It wasn't hard at all. She even said I had a talent for it. I did seem to be able to do it fairly easily. Becca was nice. She was young, not really that much older than me or the other kids. She was dressed in overalls and sandals. Her hair, the little bit of fuzz that she had, was a shocking shade of pink. And maybe too much makeup for the lack of hair she had, and maybe to make up for the lack of hair she had over a dozen earrings, as well as a nose ring and a lip ring. The next step involved selecting the right shade of chalk to match the color of the painting. Once that was done, it was about as complicated as using crayons and a coloring book just to fill in the outline. Quickly the painting, at least the chalk reproduction of the painting, came to life. It was a gigantic copy of the picture in the book, Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh. It was a painting that I'd always loved, and the way the lights in the sky seemed to actually be alive and move. When it was done, it really did look like the original, and even more amazing than watching the painting come to life was that I was a part of creating it. And it wasn't just me who was amazed. People slowed down as they passed. Some stopped for a few seconds or half a minute. Others stayed for a lot longer. People were really friendly. They watched us work, and the book was propped up for us to work from, so they were able to compare our reproduction to the original. They asked questions, or made jokes, or gave us suggestions and compliments. They also gave us more than that. They gave money. Originally, I hadn't even noticed the hat sitting beside the painting. That is, I hadn't noticed it until the first coins started dropping in. And of course there weren't just coins. There were bills, including a 20 that was sitting on top of the pile of change. Every 10 or 15 minutes, Nikki or Robert would clean out the money in the hat and slip it into one of the canvas bags. They never removed all the money, though. Some of the change and a couple of the bills, including the 20, were always left behind. Robert said they did that because they wanted people to know that not only were we taking contributions, but we'd be happy to accept really big contributions. Both he and Nikki seemed to really know what they were doing. Speaking of Nikki, where was she? I looked around. I was so occupied by the creation, I hadn't even noticed her leave. She was nowhere to be seen. Then I saw her down the street, walking towards us. She was carrying something, a white plastic bag and some boxes. I watched as she got closer. They looked like pizza boxes. She was carrying pizza. I'd been so immersed in the work that I'd forgotten just how hungry I was. Okay, everybody, time to break for lunch, Nikki sang out. Everybody stopped working as she set the 2 boxes down on one of the benches. She opened up one of the boxes, and steam and a delicious pizza smell rose up into the air. I hope pepperoni is okay, she said, and I brought along juice and pop and water. She started to unload the drinks from the bag. I stood up and brushed off my pants. My knees and back felt sore. Being sore was nothing new. Sore and hungry, cold and wet. Being on the run meant always feeling at least a couple of those all the time. Add in afraid and uncertain, and pretty well covered the whole experience. It smells really good. I reached out to take a piece. Not so fast, Nikki said. Look at your hands. I held them up. They were a filthy combination of dirt and chalk. Take one of these, Robert said, as he offered me a box of wet wipes. It's the best we can do. I took 2. The white fabric quickly became black. I tossed them in the trash can and grabbed another one, as all 9 of us tried to get clean. Finally satisfied, I took a piece of pizza. Take another one, Nikki said. I grabbed a second piece and then took a can of Coke. I retreated over to the little post-stamp-sized piece of grass that the city called a park and sat down. I took a big bite of pizza and washed it down with a slug from the can of Coke. It all tasted very good. Mind if I join you? Nikki asked. No, not at all. I shifted slightly to the side to share the spot of grass with her. She settled in beside me. No breakfast this morning? Nikki asked. I had a donut and a coffee, but I did work up an appetite. And my guess is that it wasn't a very good night's sleep either. Not great, I admitted. How did you know that? Easy, you look like crap. Thanks a lot, I said defensively. I'm not trying to insult you, just telling it like it is. How do you feel? I didn't answer right away. Like crap. Nikki laughed. Well, after a couple of good meals, you'll feel better. A couple of meals? I asked. Lunch and then dinner, Nikki said. Are you buying us supper as well? Nope. We'll be finished long before then. Hopefully you'll be buying yourself a good meal. But if I had any money for supper, don't you think I would have bought myself something more for breakfast? I asked. Breakfast I can't comment on, but I know you'll have money for supper. After paying for the pizza and drinks, I still have over $90 left from what we've collected today. So even if nobody's dropped in another dime, and I can tell by looking at that hat that isn't true, you'll still get around $10. I get some of the money? 1/9 of the money. What did you think we were going to do with it? I hadn't really thought about it. I guess I figured it would just go to Sketches to pay for the chalk or your salary. 2/9 of it will go to Sketches because Robert and I are 2 of the people who helped create the art. But what about Becca? I asked, pointing to the other counselor. Doesn't she work for Sketches too? Nikki shook her head. She's a professional artist who lives in the community. But I always see her there, and she's always helping people. She acts like she works there. And how exactly do people who work at Sketches act? Nikki questioned. I don't know. Like they know their way around. Helpful. Helpful is good, and she certainly does know her way around Sketches. She's been there longer than I have, Nikki explained. She's one of our alumni. What does that mean? I asked. It means that she started in the program the same way you did. She was a street kid who just dropped in occasionally. But she kept coming and took some courses from us, and one thing led to another, Nikki shrugged. Now, she has a place to live and makes money from her art. She does? Her paintings are quite good. Her work has been exhibited in galleries around the city. I think one of the art critics in the paper described her work as fresh, raw, and real. That sounds pretty good. And pretty expensive. Becca told me one of her last works went for over $1,000. But if she's making all that money, why does she come down here to earn a few bucks with chalk? I asked. It has nothing to do with the money. She always gives it to Sketches to buy new supplies. Who do you think bought all this chalk? She did? That and paint and some clay. She's always free to do what she wants with the money she earns today, just as everybody else is. She can afford to give back, and she wants to, so she can repay what was given to her. Someday, that might be what you'll do when you make it. You think I could be an artist? Could be, she said. You have a lot of talent, but it could be that you make it in another way. What do you mean? I asked. Not everybody is going to be a professional artist. The graduates of Sketches go on to do lots of other things. People have become construction workers, youth workers, bakers. Where do you think we get our endless supply of bagels and buns and muffins? Billy works over at Buns Master, apprenticing to become a baker. He makes sure the owner lets us have all the day-old stuff. And the construction at the center is being done by another of our former kids, Brian. People just feel good about paying back the help we've given them. I know you will someday. I didn't answer. I didn't know if I'd ever be in a position to help anybody with anything. Of course, with you. We're still missing the important first step, Nikki said. What step is that? We still have to help you. You have helped me. You are helping me. You bought me lunch today, and I'm getting money from this. And you let me do some paintings, and I had some bagels and muffins before. There's a whole lot more that we can offer, Nikki said. I wasn't sure if I was ready for anything more. We're an art drop-in center, and that's our primary goal, our mission. But we're also connected to all the other services in the city. I know all the services in the city, and more important, the people who run them. If you have a problem, I might just have an answer to where you could go or who you could talk to. What sort of problem? I asked hesitantly. Like if you needed a place to live, or food, or clothing, or medical treatment, or... Medical treatment? I asked, cutting her off. She nodded. We have connections with doctors and health centers that can offer advice or treatment for sexually transmitted diseases, birth control, drug and alcohol counseling. What about if somebody was hurt? I paused. Beaten up. You were beaten up? Not me. I'm fine. It's my friends. Is that what happened last night that caused you to lose sleep? I didn't want to answer, but I nodded my head ever so slightly. Do you want to talk about it? Nikki asked. No, I said. Talking about it won't change anything. I just want to know if there's somebody who could look at them to see if they're all right, like a doctor or somebody like that. I can arrange it, Nikki said. And they won't have to pay, will they? Because we don't have any money. No cost and no hassle. They won't even have to give their names if they don't want to. How badly are they hurt? Bren... I stopped myself. I didn't want to give out his name. It was something I'd learned. Never get out information you didn't need to give out. My one friend was hit in the head, and his face is all scraped up. And my other friend got kicked in the side, and her ribs are sore, and she said it hurts to breathe deeply. She might have broken or cracked ribs, Nikki said. It's important to have them looked at. If she doesn't get them properly treated, she can get pneumonia. And the hit in the head could have caused a concussion. Did your friend pass out? Not pass out, but he was dizzy and not very steady on his feet. Sounds like a concussion. He needs to see somebody. They both need to see somebody. Tell you what, right after lunch I'll go and make a couple of phone calls. I'll find somebody for them to see. She paused. Who did this to them? I don't know. You were there. You weren't there, or they didn't tell you, or you didn't know the people, or you don't want to tell me about it, she asked. Yes, I said. She snorted. Yes to which part? Yes to most of it. But you didn't get hurt, right? Nikki asked. Again, she sounded so concerned that I felt bad for not telling her, not trusting her with more. They didn't hurt me. But you were there, Nikki asked. I was there, I said softly. And they didn't touch you? I didn't say that, I murmured, my voice barely above a whisper. Nikki reached over and put a hand on my shoulder. Are you sure you're okay? My whole body shuddered, and I had to fight to hold back tears. They didn't hurt me. I'm okay. It's my friends I'm worried about. Me too, Nikki said. If I arrange for them to see somebody, will they go? I'll make them go. Sounds like you're a good friend, and they're lucky to have you around. I'm lucky to have them around, I said, and I'm worried about them. When I left that morning, Ashley was clutching her side, and Brent was complaining about how much his head still hurt. I'll arrange for the doctor, and you arrange for them to go and see her, okay? Okay. Nikki smiled. Now, that wasn't too hard, was it? It wasn't hard at all. Sometimes it's difficult to trust people, but we're here to help in any way we can. Now you finish up your lunch, get back to work, and I'll take care of business.